More importantly, is the National Prosecuting Authority dragging its feet in prosecuting criminal taxpayers? According to the tax consulting essay, the SARS has improved its systems to probe criminal tax offences and refer them to the NPA for the final leg of prosecution. However, the NPA, believe it or not, has proved to be rather reluctant to slap these offenders with the law. To expand on this, we're joined by the legal manager for the tax compliance at tax consulting essay, Jashwin Baijoo. Morning to Jashwin.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. On the part of SARS, Jashwin, have they been doing their bit to ensure that investigations into tax offenders are actually carefully followed through?
So, with regards to investigations of taxpayers, and more specifically SARS working hand in hand with the NPA, it has been ongoing for a number of years, with one of the earliest joint media statements dating back to 27 August 2007. So what it works, and this must be noted as well, is that SARS are not here to prosecute taxpayers. SARS are here to ensure compliance and detect any non-compliance or possible fraud, after which it is then handed over to the NPA. And this is very much, what's similar to what happened in the US with crime boss Al Capone, where, the IRS, they looked and they found the tax charges and the tax evasion, but the actual prosecution is done by the federal authorities. And it's the same with SARS and the NPA. So yes, SARS tees it up, but the NPA is the one that drives it home.
Jashwin, is there no tax court, as in many other nations, where in the event of SARS finding Shabadin Rahmani to have faulted, you then are sent straight away to the tax court that's within the SARS ambit, and prosecution takes place immediately? I mean, shouldn't there have been a discussion, a decision around an issue of this nature?
So we must remember, with regards to the tax court, it's not treated like any other court. It's basically a specific mechanism to handle only tax-related affairs. And what the decisions of the tax court are, in the general course of things, are punitive, and they take the form of debts and penalties and interest, etc., and not actual jail time. So the tax court, a discrepancy there is drawn between the tax court and the tax board simply on the value of the dispute in question, and that is depending on which side of 1 million rands that dispute falls. With regards to the actual criminal element of it, and even with regards to the more civil commercial element of it, senior SARS official still takes a written statement down to the magistrate's court, not the tax, to get stamped. And this is then considered as a judgment of the court on which they may proceed to attach a bank account or attach assets of the taxpayer.
So the gap between the finding of the fault on the part of the taxpayer by SARS and the NPA, what is the gap then?
So, at the moment, right, and I'm actually going to quote Commissioner Kiswesa here. His exact words were, "We don't prosecute taxpayers or citizens. We administer revenue matters. When we conduct criminal investigations, we hand those files over to the NPA." All right? And the reason I quote this is because SARS has had this relationship with the NPA for a number of years now. However, with SARS's increased drive on non-compliance and collections across the country or even internationally for individuals abroad with interest in SA, with that drive being at its peak to actually fill the budget deficit, and SARS being so strong on implementation of collection measures, regardless of the actual quantum of the liability, but if there's liability to SARS are taking very active steps to actually collect those funds. And where they need the NPA to step in is where that that non-compliance is actually heading in the direction of tax evasion or fraud. And what's happened, however, is Kiswesa, about a week or so ago, actually did call out the NPA on the basis that they're not playing the game. They're not stepping up to the level that SARS is at. They're staying at the level they were at a few years back. And that is the issue. There's that gap in terms of leveling up.
But then, Jashwin, then it's the same as any criminal, I'll commit the crime. There's a 5% chance of me getting caught, and having been caught, there's a 5% chance that I would be prosecuted.
So I hear you, and we could say that a number of years ago, it was a lot easier to commit certain acts and get away with it. But with the amendment of the tax law amendment bill, which came into play about 2 years back, it was 2020, SARS has now included in the definition, they've included both intentional and negligent, as well as willful. So this now covers anything from an inadvertent error to intentional evasive maneuvers, meaning that a taxpayer can actually face sanctions for something as simple as mixing up their numbers on a tax return, swapping the 6 and the 1 as an example. That's an under-declaration. It looks intentional, maybe negligent, but you get 150% understatement penalty because it's dropped the value so drastically. And further than that, SARS has upgraded its AI, meaning that it's got free access to information internationally with an automatic exchange with about 150 other jurisdictions worldwide. South Africa is now in a position where SARS has that access. They have the access to the offshore assets that they didn't previously have. They have access to your offshore bank accounts, and they are also at liberty to conduct joint audits with any of these other jurisdictions that form part of the automatic exchange of information.
That is Jashwin Baijoo. Thank you very much for your time. He's the legal manager for tax compliance at Tax Consulting South Africa. Thank you very much, Leo.